understand.
And then, here's this bike, and, it's on top of me, and I slid probably about 15, 20 feet with the whole weight of the bike on top of me.
Well, that sucks.
So some people had to lift the bike off of me. Here's my concern. Did I have anything broken? No, I don't care if anything's broken. Oh, what about my bike here? Did I scratch it up? Did I do much damage?
That's funny. That's the first thing I said when my bike went skittering off and people ran over. They said, "How are you?" I said, "Make sure my bike is all right and turn it off because the battery will die."
When they told me my bike was pretty much totaled, I cried, and when they showed me pictures of it.
There wasn't not much left of Kevin's bike.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when that happened. That was pretty freaky because you had just recently gotten that bike like a couple months before, didn't you?
I did. I bought it in February, I think, and then I crashed it in April.
And it was really
420.
Yeah, it was really bad on that situation. Me and my other son who rides, Richard, we were on our road trip. We were already out about like 14 or 15 days. We did Reno, Las Vegas. We were visiting my daughter in Hemet, California. And we get the phone call from my wife and saying, "Hey, Kevin crashed, was throwing 300 feet off his bike on the freeway and went over the divider." And at that point, my wife didn't know how bad hurt he was, but she said they don't know at that point how bad he is and if he's going to make it or not.
Oh, Jesus.
And at that time, in California, they were having the worst rain storms they had in years. So here it was. Me and Richard decided, okay, we got to come back. So we climbed on our Harleys, right, and we're riding. Yep. And I had my granddaughter with us, and she was riding on back of the Ultra Classic, and I was on the Street Glide. So we were riding back, and then we hit Sacramento, and it was like a downpour all the way home. I mean, heavy. And I always been, nervous riding in rain, but I didn't mind it because where I live and going around, I would only ride 10 miles of it. But here I was riding from Sacramento. That wasn't so bad, but then when we got up to the mountains, the passes, it was not. It was snowing, and that was my first experience of riding a motorcycle in actually ice and snow. And then coming over the pass, God, I'm trying to think the pass going from California into Oregon, Grants Pass or whatever it is. It was snow over the roads and the pass. That was so freaking scary.
I can imagine that. That's what Mark Harley Trek would call full pucker factor.
Yeah,
your butt's puckered completely.
And, being a fat guy, too, and then I kind of blew my budget on the trip, so I didn't actually, in other words, I maxed out my credit cards. I wasn't prepared to have to buy rain gear. So what rain gear I had didn't cover everything. So, I mean, I was so soaking wet. It was just like, oh, wow, and cold. But we actually made it home in 2 days from Hemet, California, so back to Tacoma, Washington.
Yikes. Yeah, because you're on a mission. They see your son,
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. And
Kevin, did you suffer any major, any debilitating injuries, any broken bones?
Just a dislocated shoulder, but I did suffer a lot of road rash and scarring.
Road rash, yeah. Oof.
Road rash sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, oof. Oof. That sucks, dude. I have never had road rash, thank God. The accident that I had, I was wearing my leathers that night, so I was fine. But
never wear a half face helmet. That's what I was wearing. That shit got me on the face. I was sliced up. I look like a zombie.
Wow.
Yeah,
See, that's one of those things where, the people have these debates about should you wear a full face, a 3/4, a half helmet. And, if you're going to wear anything other than a full face helmet, you have to accept that there's a great possibility that you're going to scrape your face off or break your face into mush.
And that's what happened to me.
Well, then there was a debate here that they took it up to our state Congress and Senate, which didn't pass, but they were trying to, abolish the helmet law here. But they were trying, and they had all these medical things that trying to support that a full helmet, if you crash, you could snap your neck.
Yep. Well, I mean, there is a risk of that. Same as the risk of, like, a seatbelt could trap you and then you could die. So a lot of people buy those seatbelt cutter things or whatever. But I guess just to give my 2 cents on this, because you know how people, the moment you start talking, somebody starts putting you into a category. And so they're thinking you're this way or you're that way. You're a liberal or what they call libtard, or you're a conservative and you're a racist, Nazi or whatever. Here's my view on this whole thing, and categorize me as you will, listeners. I believe that if you want to ride with no helmet or a piece of crap novelty helmet, go right ahead. But don't go crying to me when you're brain damaged and you're a vegetable in the hospital for the next 20 years and your insurance doesn't cover you because you're acting like an asshole. That's on you.
I learned my lesson.
You have the freedom to do that if you want to. Same thing with seatbelts. I mean, the government shouldn't be protecting you from yourself because you own your own meat, as the famous comedian Doug Stanhope says. I always give credit. So if you want to act like a jerk, go right ahead, but don't expect other people to pay for it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, you know what also is interesting? I've watched a lot of the testing on YouTube about helmets, and a lot of the helmets, even if they meet the standards, actually, how can I say it? In a major crash, they don't protect you. They shatter and break, and actually, in some cases, can probably do more damage to your skull than if you didn't wear a helmet.
Yeah, I mean, people go back and forth on it, and for the most part, I got to talk about this actually. For years, I have preferred the half helmet. I did get into a full face helmet because back in the early days of motovlogging. Oh, by the way, in case anybody's listening and doesn't know who the hell I am, if you want to find me on the YouTubes, I'm known as Mikeli7. Nobody can pronounce it. I know they say Mikeli. It's Mikeli7, and it's spelled Maikeli 7 at YouTube. So when I first started riding, I was always half helmet. And there were no cameras back then that you could use to motovlog. There was a guy who kind of pioneered it. One of them was Mordeth13. Now he just goes by M13. And he is a controversial figure because he is kind of I hate to say it, it's kind of an asshat. He just speaks out of his ass, and he's offensive sometimes. But he's funny as hell. I didn't really gravitate toward him so much. He lives in Taiwan. And he just kind of, just obnoxious. But there's this guy I found. His name was 80. Was it now? No, wait, I gotta think now. 808 Hawaii or 88 Hawaii. 88 Hawaii. That was what his name was. Now he goes by Spencerian, and he did the same thing basically that Morda 13 did. He took a Kodak V570 camera. And he stuck it in his full-faced helmet in front of his nose. And he would record his rides. And that's where motovlogging was born. So for me, the originators were Morda 13 and 88 YouTube. And people like Bilma, who, God rest his soul, has passed. And the Suburban Rider, Chuck, also known as the Mayor, who mostly does the Dumpster Diver reports now, and the Smyrna Cowboy, who rides a Bergman scooter. He's awesome. They originated this whole thing, and at the time, I just had this handheld Canon camera that did a little bit of digital video, and I did a lot of editing, and I would put my voice on videos after I made them because I couldn't talk. I couldn't put that camera in my helmet. And then one day I finally found something that I could stick inside a helmet. It was what was it now? Vado. It was called the Vado camera, and I got a full face helmet. I shrunk it down inside the air housing, and I was able to make a full faced motovlog, like a traditional motovlog at that point. This was like 2009, and Bilma said, "I'm so glad that you're wearing a full face helmet." And I said, "Bilma, as soon as I can find a way to motovlog with a half helmet, I'm doing it." He said, "You do realize that if you get in a crash, you'll mess up your face." I said, "My face ain't that pretty anyway." But you'll notice if you go back and watch my earliest videos, I don't really get into the traditional motovlogging until about 2009 because I didn't have the technology. And for the longest time, I had to full face helmet for my videos, which I hated. And then, was it around 2013 or 14? There was this guy that come out. What was his name now? Oh, God. He's in California, and he rides a Harley Sportster. He hasn't really done any motovlogging. He kind of went out of it. Oh, I can't remember his name now. Anyway, he was doing great stuff, and I emailed him, and I said, "What are you using for your setup?" And he told me it's a GoPro Hero 3 with a Sena backpack on it, and then you have a Sena 20S on your helmet, and you can motovlog that way. So I put this get up that he told me on my half helmet, and the microphone that comes with the Sena is so good that you can have a half helmet with the wind fully on you, and you have the GoPro camera on the top of the half helmet right in the front of it, and you can motovlog. And so finally I was able to motovlog with a half helmet, and the sound quality was good. After all the different things that I tried 5 or 6 different cameras and options and things, and they all failed. And it was wonderful. And then, about 6 months ago, 20S started to break. And so if you watch my videos recently, it's all half helmet again. But not willingly. I want to wear my half helmet. Sorry, did I say half helmet? I meant full face. The Sena 10C, if anybody's interested, if you want to do motovlogging, it's called the Sena 10C. That is a great full-faced helmet option. If you want to do a half helmet option, you want to get a GoPro Hero 3 or 4 with a Sena 10C or a Sena 20S and a Sena backpack. That's how you motovlog, and it'll serve you very well.
What is the cost for somebody to get started in motorblogging? What would the average cost be?
Well, it's a good question, actually. Depends. If you want to have high quality, you're going to get into the hundreds of dollars. I'm thinking for high quality, for a GoPro, it's about $200, maybe $300 for a GoPro, another $100 for the backpack, another $200 for the Sena 10C or the Sena 20S. So you're looking at $500 to get into quality motovlogging.
Okay.
If anybody knows anything cheaper that's the same quality, let me know, because I'll buy it.
How about like the Sonys? People have been saying Sony has a good camera. It's good for motovlogging and stuff like that. Have you ever looked at their cameras?
Not really. I haven't really tried that yet. The Senas have really worked so well. I've kind of gravitated toward them. If you want to get into basic motovlogging with decent quality, the Sena 10C is the way to go. You can use it on a full face helmet. You can use it on a half helmet. It's got an integrated microphone system that you can use. The camera's fine for the 10C, although I don't like the fact that you have to put it on the side of your helmet. I really like it in front of your helmet so you can get a full view. But it's a great system. Harley Trek, in my opinion, pioneered it. And watching his videos, I was won over. So thank you, Harley Trek, for that. But the 10C is probably the best bet at this point for getting into it relatively cheaply.
Okay. Have you ever had anybody stare at you strangely when you walk into a store or